What if I told you that the most powerful way to deal with a disrespectful person is to not react the way they expect? Not with shouting, not with insults, but with calm, calculated words that cut deeper than anger ever could, disarming them instantly. Disrespectful people crave your reaction. That is how they win. But today, you will learn exactly what to say that leaves them speechless and forces them to confront their own behavior, making them question themselves. These are not just petty comebacks. These are Stoic responses, sharp, composed, and designed to strip their power away, effectively vaporizing it. So if you have ever walked away from an argument thinking, I wish I knew what to say, this video is your answer, your arsenal. Before we dive in, if you find strength in staying calm under pressure, if you believe calm is a superpower, hit that like button and subscribe for weekly Stoic wisdom you can actually use. Wisdom that works. Number 1, you're entitled to your opinion, and I'm entitled to ignore it. Sure. Disrespect doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers, hiding behind sarcasm, fake smiles, and carefully chosen words crafted to sting, designed to get right under your skin. People who disrespect you often aren't looking for a genuine discussion. They're looking for control. They desperately want to see if they can pull you out of your center, if they can knock you off balance and trigger you into proving something. But what happens when you refuse to play their game? What if your response is calm, a firm boundary that ends the conversation before it truly begins, effectively slamming the door shut? That's the genius and beauty of this line. You're entitled to your opinion, and I'm entitled to ignore it. It's not loud or aggressive. It doesn't flex ego or become defensive. It doesn't mirror their disrespect. It's neutral, it's firm, and above all, it's utterly disarming. With this one powerful sentence, you let them know clearly, you can continue to talk, but I am no longer truly listening. You don't deny them the right to speak. That's not your role or job. You simply and crucially deny them access to your emotional energy. This approach is deeply rooted in Stoicism. The ancient Stoics taught that you cannot control what others say or do. You can only control your mind, your perception, your judgment, your response. That's your kingdom. Marcus Aurelius, one of history's most powerful men, understood this profoundly. Despite being emperor, he wrote in Meditations, "If anyone can refute me, show me I'm making a mistake, I'll gladly change. It's the truth I'm after, and the truth never harmed anyone. What harms us is to persist in self-deceit and ignorance." Think about that. He wasn't afraid of being wrong, but baseless criticism, he mentally dismissed it. This must be your new mindset. Value every opinion thrown your way, and you effectively hand your peace over to people who haven't earned it. Consider the modern example of Michelle Obama, weathering relentless waves of criticism, mocked, misquoted, misunderstood, yet she rarely responded with bitterness. Why? Because she embodies the Stoic creed. When they go low, we go high. That's not just clever PR. It's a life philosophy, a decision not to let immaturity drag you down. Her response to disrespect wasn't weak silence. It was silence born of potent strength. When you say, you're entitled to your opinion, and I'm entitled to ignore it, you're not just shutting down a rude person, you're drawing a definitive line. You're declaring, I don't need your validation, nor your approval to know who I am. That kind of composure is rare and incredibly powerful. It unnerves them because they realize their words have no effect. You've stepped outside their game. And once you've done that, they simply can't win. So the next time someone throws a verbal jab, don't even flinch. Don't try to win the argument. Don't try to prove your worth. Just remind yourself their opinion is not fact. It's a projection, mere noise. And you are under no obligation to let that noise invade your peace. Look at them, breathe slowly, and say with complete calm, you're entitled to your opinion, and I'm entitled to ignore it. That is not just a comeback, that is Stoic clarity in action, and it's more powerful than any insult. Number 2, if I had $1 for every smart thing you said, I'd be broke. At first glance, this line might sound like pure sarcasm, and it is, but it's also a sharp mirror, reflecting just how little substance the disrespectful person is actually offering. You're not attacking them. You're revealing their emptiness, and you're doing it without raising your voice or lowering yourself to their level. Disrespect often hides behind a false sense of intellectual superiority. Some people like to talk down to you, not because they're truly right, but because it makes them feel powerful. They weaponize their words to elevate themselves. That's why this response works so well. It exposes the hollowness behind their entire performance. From a Stoic perspective, this is what Epictetus warned us about. He stated, "It is not he who reviles or strikes you who insults you, but your opinion that these things are insulting." The Stoics understood that insults only land if you accept them as truth. If you don't, if you see right through them, they vanish into thin air. So instead of being wounded, you become amused. Not out of cruelty, but out of pure clarity. When someone speaks with arrogance but offers no wisdom, why should their words carry any weight at all? Their disrespect becomes meaningless, like shouting into a strong wind. This comeback doesn't need to be delivered with anger. In fact, it works best with a tone of quiet detachment. Calm humor, even a slight knowing smile. It communicates. You clearly believe you're saying something smart, but there's no real substance here. And I see that, in doing so, you're reclaiming the mental space they attempted to occupy. You're refusing to let their empty words plant seeds of self-doubt in your mind. Instead, you acknowledge their noise, and then you move on. We've seen this kind of composure from leaders who face relentless scrutiny. One striking example is Albert Einstein. Despite reshaping our understanding of physics, Einstein was mocked by many in his early years. His ideas rejected, his genius questioned. But he didn't argue with every single person who doubted him. He once wisely said, "Stay away from negative people. They have a problem for every solution." He knew the value of his mind, and he knew that silence or a dismissive quip is sometimes the best rebuttal to ignorance pretending to be intellect. Using this line, "If I had $1 for every smart thing you said, I'd be broke," isn't just about making a clever retort. It's about signaling to yourself and to others that not all voices deserve equal volume in your life. Some people speak just to be heard. Others speak to create chaos. But if their words lack wisdom, why let them take up precious space in your inner world? This is where the Stoic mindset becomes your shield. You stop being reactive and start being highly selective. You start filtering the world not through raw emotions, but through clear reason. And the more you practice this, the easier it becomes to identify what's worth your energy and what definitely isn't. So the next time someone comes at you with smugness disguised as insight, don't get defensive. Don't try to match their tone. Just smile, pause, and say, "If I had $1 for every smart thing you said, I'd be broke." Or nod, then walk away. Because truth doesn't need to shout. It only needs to stand tall and be recognized. Number 3, I don't argue with people who thrive on disrespect. There's a certain type of person who doesn't just argue to be heard. They argue to dominate, to provoke, to drag you down to their level of chaos. These people don't seek truth, resolution, or genuine clarity. They seek emotional turmoil. They thrive on disrespect because it gives them a fleeting, false sense of control. They bait you into conflict, hoping you'll respond emotionally so they can claim victory, not by being right, but by watching you lose your composure. And this is precisely where Stoic wisdom offers a vital lifeline. When you state, "I don't argue with people who thrive on disrespect," you are refusing to be part of their destructive performance. You're not running away. You're decisively stepping above it. The Stoics taught us that peace isn't found in controlling the external world. It's found in controlling how we respond to it. Epictetus famously said, "If someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation." In other words, You're not obligated to let someone else's disrespect become your internal disturbance. When you choose not to engage, you are not being weak. You are being profoundly wise. You're conserving your energy for things that actually matter. You're choosing inner stillness over outer drama. In today's world, people argue everywhere. Online, in traffic, at work, even within families. But what's often forgotten is that arguments with people who disrespect you are rarely about the actual issue at hand. They're about ego, and the person who can walk away with calm, without needing that final word, holds the real, lasting power. It reminds me of the way Barack Obama often handled disrespect in public forums. Whether it was a heckler at a rally or a critic twisting his words, he didn't escalate. He often smiled. He stayed focused. Because he understood something critical. People remember how you carry yourself under pressure far more than they remember the specifics of the argument itself. This line, "I don't argue with people who thrive on disrespect," is not just a statement, it's a powerful filter. It's a reminder to yourself that not every confrontation is worth your precious time, that not every battle is meant to be fought, and that walking away doesn't mean you lost. It means you're wise enough to see that engaging would cost you your peace, and that price is simply too high to pay. When you recognize someone is fueled by conflict, the most powerful thing you can do is starve them of what they desperately crave: your attention, your reaction, your emotional energy. Seneca once wrote, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay." And in that delay, in that crucial moment of pause, you get to decide whether a person is even worth responding to. When someone insults you, disrespects you, or challenges you just to get a rise, you can simply look at them and say calmly and clearly, "I don't argue with people who thrive on disrespect." That one sentence does more than shut down the conversation. It sets a formidable boundary. It says, "I am not here to entertain your immaturity. I am not here to validate your drama. I am here to protect my peace." And when you choose peace over ego, clarity over conflict, you don't just win the moment, you win the inner game. And that's the only game that truly, ultimately matters. Number 4, your attitude isn't going to get you very far in life. Sucker. When confronted with disrespect, most people instinctively react with anger or frustration, trying to defend themselves or immediately strike back. But the Stoics teach us a different way, a way of calm reflection and highly strategic response. Saying your attitude isn't going to get you very far in life isn't just a comeback. It's a profound observation delivered without malice, but full of considerable weight. It cuts deeper than any insult because it points to a painful truth that many people refuse to face, that toxic behavior, arrogance, and disrespect are ultimately self-defeating in the long run. While momentary power can sometimes be gained through intimidation or insults, such an attitude inevitably isolates, diminishes trust, and erodes opportunities. This is the quiet power of Stoicism, to recognize that how we treat others shapes not only their perception of us, but also the very trajectory of our own lives. Marcus Aurelius, one of history's greatest Stoic philosophers and Roman emperors, constantly reminded himself in his meditations that the opinions and actions of others do not define us, but our own virtue and character absolutely do. He understood that many people act out of ignorance or woundedness, and that responding in kind only drags us down to their level. Instead, he urged patience and wisdom, to see beyond the immediate slight and understand the bigger picture. The phrase, "your attitude isn't going to get you very far in life," is a way of holding up that bigger picture to the offender without descending into bitterness or seeking revenge. It signals that while they may be winning the battle of the moment with their disrespect, they are decidedly losing the war of character and future success. Consider the powerful example of Nelson Mandela, who faced decades of imprisonment and constant disrespect under apartheid South Africa. Instead of responding with hatred or consuming anger, Mandela chose to rise above. He understood that bitterness would only chain him to his oppressors. He famously said, "Resentment is like drinking poison and then hoping it will kill your enemies. Mandela's attitude, grounded in forgiveness and profound dignity, ultimately won not only his freedom, but also the moral high ground that inspired a nation and the entire world. His life teaches us that a toxic attitude leads only to self-destruction, while patience and integrity build bridges to true, lasting progress. When you say, your attitude isn't going to get you very far in life, you are doing more than pointing out flaws. You are holding up a mirror to someone who may never have seriously considered the consequences of their own bitterness or hostility. You are also setting a clear boundary, silently saying that you will not participate in their self-sabotage or let their negativity drag you down. This phrase is not intended as a weapon, but as a shield, a way to protect your peace and steadfastly maintain your dignity. From a psychological perspective, people who are rude or disrespectful often act out because of deep-seated insecurity or frustration. By calmly highlighting the long-term cost of their attitude, you invite them to reflect, even if just for a fleeting moment. You demonstrate maturity and emotional intelligence, which can disarm their aggression more effectively than anger or sarcasm ever could. The phrase sends a clear message. Your behavior today is a choice, and it has tangible consequences tomorrow. In everyday life, this approach can transform potential conflict into a moment of teaching, or at least a moment of necessary pause. It shows that you are not just reacting, you are responding with intention and genuine wisdom. You become like the Stoic philosopher standing calmly in a storm, unaffected by the thunderous words around him, because he understands their true transient nature. So the next time someone confronts you with disrespect, instead of escalating the situation, consider this measured response. Your attitude isn't going to get you very far in life. Say it with calm confidence, not anger. Say it with a tone that clearly indicates you're above the petty clash and focused on your own path. Then walk away knowing that you have chosen the better path, one of self-control, perspective, and ultimate quiet strength. This is the essence of Stoicism, the power to remain unshaken by the disrespect of others, while quietly allowing your character to speak volumes about who you truly are. Number 5. This conversation was over before it even started. One of the most powerful ways to respond to disrespect is to refuse to engage with it at all. Saying, "This conversation was over before it even started," is a masterful way of drawing a clear boundary that prevents conflict from escalating any further. It immediately signals that you recognize the other person's words as not worthy of your time, your energy, or your emotional investment. This isn't avoidance born from fear or weakness. It's an intentional act of self-preservation and profound wisdom. The Stoics were deeply aware that our mental and emotional resources are finite and precious, and they taught that we must guard them fiercely. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations that many things are beyond our control, but our judgments and choices about how to respond are always within our power. When faced with disrespect, we get to choose whether to engage or to disengage, and often the latter is the path of true strength, not weakness. Disrespectful people thrive on getting a reaction. Their goal is to bait you into an emotional battle where they can dominate or unsettle you. When you respond with, "This conversation was over before it even started," you decisively deny them that satisfaction. You refuse to participate in their game of provocation. This tactic aligns perfectly with the Stoic principle of apatheia. Not apathy in the modern sense, but freedom from being controlled by destructive passions. By stopping the interaction before it takes root, you maintain your tranquility and demonstrate mastery over your own mind. You send a quiet but unmistakable message. Your peace cannot be disturbed by petty attacks or childish insults. Seneca, another great Stoic thinker, advised us to treat insults like meaningless words that should slide off like water on a duck's back. He famously said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality," highlighting that the emotional pain caused by disrespect is often the product of our own internal reaction. This phrase, "this conversation was over before it even started," works by interrupting that imagined suffering. It is a verbal shield that stops the spiral of negativity before it even properly begins. It doesn't fuel the fire, it extinguishes the match before it can ignite. Real-life examples of this powerful mindset abound. Consider how Mahatma Gandhi dealt with his critics and oppressors. Despite facing relentless hostility, Gandhi refused to meet anger with anger. He often chose silence or simple, firm responses that deflected hostility without any escalation. His strength lay not in force, but in his unshakable calm and principled stand. When challenged, he didn't try to win every single verbal battle. He preserved his energy for the fight that truly mattered: justice and freedom for his people. By refusing to dignify disrespect with a drawn-out confrontation, he maintained the moral high ground and ultimately changed the course of history. In modern times, leaders like Angela Merkel have shown similar restraint in the face of intense criticism and disrespect. Known for her composed and measured responses, Merkel's style was never to get drawn into petty disputes or emotional outbursts. Instead, she would often close down unproductive debates with a calm, decisive statement that redirected focus to what really mattered. This ability to control the narrative and preserve one's composure is a direct application of Stoic wisdom, showing that refusing to engage can often be the most effective form of engagement. When you say, "This conversation was over before it even started," you reclaim control of the moment. You signal that you are not going to waste your valuable time entertaining disrespect. This phrase not only defends your peace, but also subtly exposes the emptiness of the other person's attack. It's a way of saying, "Your words do not hold any weight here." Purni. This refusal to react on their terms denies them power and shifts the balance decisively back to you. It aligns perfectly with Epictetus' teaching that it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Your reaction, or deliberate non-reaction, is your true, undeniable power. In essence, this response embodies the Stoic ideal of emotional resilience and strategic detachment. It protects you from the drain of pointless conflict and keeps your mind focused on what truly matters: your own virtue, purpose, and peace of mind. By ending the conversation before it even begins, you preserve your dignity and refuse to be a participant in someone else's disrespectful drama. This approach doesn't just win the moment. It preserves your energy for the battles worth fighting and strengthens your inner fortress against negativity. Number 6. Thanks for your input. I'll be sure to forget it immediately. Kwasharanam. When someone disrespects you, their goal is often to rattle your confidence, provoke a strong reaction, or assert control over the situation. One of the most effective ways to disarm this tactic is to respond with a calm but dismissive remark that robs their words of all power. Saying, "Thanks for your input, I'll be sure to forget it immediately," accomplishes exactly that. It acknowledges the comment without anger or defensiveness, but simultaneously signals that their words carry no weight or influence over you whatsoever. This kind of measured response embodies the Stoic ideal of emotional detachment, where you neither accept the insult as truth nor react with frustration, but instead maintain sovereign control over your own mind and mood. The Stoics believe that external events, including the words and actions of others, are indifferent, neither good nor bad in themselves. What truly matters is our judgment about them. Epictetus taught that it's not the insult itself that harms us, but our interpretation and subsequent reaction. By responding with polite dismissal, you are practicing exactly this wisdom. You show that you are unbothered, that the rude comment is neither an attack on your worth nor a disruption to your peace. Instead, it is like background noise, there but ultimately inconsequential and easy to ignore. A great historical example of this principle in action is Winston Churchill. Known for his quick wit and sharp tongue, Churchill faced numerous critics throughout his long political career. When confronted with disparaging remarks, he often responded with humor or a dismissive quip that deflated the tension and left critics utterly powerless. One famous example was when a lady told him, "If I were your wife, I'd put poison in your coffee." Churchill replied, "And if I were your husband, I'd drink it." This kind of response neither escalates conflict nor surrenders dignity. It's a masterclass in maintaining control through wit and calm detachment. While you don't need to be quite as pointed, the spirit of turning disrespect into harmless, irrelevant noise is the same. In modern psychology, this approach is known as emotional inoculation. By refusing to internalize negative words and instead brushing them off with lightness or indifference, you protect your self-esteem and mental health. This prevents the disrespectful person from gaining any satisfaction from their attempt to provoke you. In fact, your calm dismissal can often confuse or frustrate them, as they expect a strong, emotional reaction. By denying them that, you effectively neutralize their weapon. Saying, "Thanks for your input, I'll be sure to forget it immediately," also subtly highlights the futility of their attempt to affect you. It's a way of saying, "Your words have no lasting impact on me," which can make the other person reconsider whether continuing their disrespect is even worthwhile. At the very least, it prevents the exchange from escalating into a heated, unproductive argument. The beauty of this comeback is that it requires no anger or aggression. It is delivered with a calm, almost courteous tone, reflecting the Stoic virtue of tranquillitas animi, tranquility of the soul. It demonstrates that you are unshaken by the insult, confident in your own worth, and unwilling to let another's negativity disturb your precious peace. This is the ultimate power, to remain unbothered, steady, and clear-headed in the face of disrespect. In your daily life, mastering this kind of response can transform your interactions. Instead of reacting impulsively or retreating silently, you acknowledge the disrespect but firmly refuse to validate it. You keep your dignity intact, set firm boundaries, and demonstrate considerable emotional strength. Over time, this builds an unshakable reputation. People recognize that you are not easily provoked, that your calmness is your armor, and that disrespectful behavior will not find fertile ground with you. So next time someone tries to get under your skin, try this calm but dismissive comeback. "Thanks for your input. I'll be sure to forget it immediately." Say it with steady confidence, not sarcasm or bitterness. Let your composure speak louder than their words. This simple phrase can protect your peace, expose the emptiness of their insult, and ultimately make them regret trying to disrespect you in the first place. Number 7. You seem really dedicated to making a fool of yourself. Introduction. When someone disrespects you with persistent rudeness or deliberately tries to provoke a reaction, one of the most effective ways to respond is by calmly exposing the foolishness behind their behavior. Saying, "You seem really dedicated to making a fool of yourself," is a bold but composed statement that shines a spotlight directly on their own self-defeating actions. It's a way of pointing out that their disrespect reveals more about their character flaws than anything about you. This tactic aligns deeply with Stoic philosophy, which teaches us to see through the surface of people's words and actions and understand their true nature. Often, disrespect is less about the target and more about the attacker's own internal turmoil or weaknesses. The Stoics emphasize the importance of inner virtue and wisdom over external validation or insults. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that the opinions and behaviors of others should not disturb his tranquility, as they are reflections of those individuals' own judgments and not an accurate measure of his worth. In his meditations, he wrote about how people's faults, like anger and disrespect, are often signs of ignorance and weakness. When you calmly say to a rude person, "You seem really dedicated to making a fool of yourself," you are gently but firmly calling attention to their ignorance and lack of self-control without sinking to their level. This response demonstrates your own self-mastery and refusal to engage in childish or toxic behavior. A historical example that illustrates this mindset is found in the life of Abraham Lincoln, who faced endless criticism and disrespect during one of the most turbulent periods in American history. Lincoln was known for his calm demeanor and sharp wit. When attacked personally, he often responded with humor or with remarks that subtly exposed the folly of his critics without anger or insult. This approach disarmed opponents and preserved his dignity. Lincoln's ability to maintain composure and point out the weaknesses in his critics' positions, rather than reacting emotionally, helped him navigate enormous challenges with wisdom and grace. On a psychological level, this comeback works because it forces the disrespectful person to confront the consequences of their own behavior, making themselves look foolish and unprofessional. Many people who are rude or disrespectful are often unaware of how they appear to others, or they may be acting out of insecurity or frustration. By calmly stating that they are making a fool of themselves, you hold up a mirror that reveals the reality of their conduct. This can be disarming, forcing them to rethink their approach or at least pause to consider the social cost of their words. Moreover, this response reflects a high level of emotional intelligence and control. Instead of escalating the situation with anger, sarcasm, or insults, you respond with a measured observation that undercuts the attacker's power. This demonstrates that you are in control of your emotions in the interaction, which is often the most effective way to regain authority in a difficult social exchange. The calm, clear-eyed recognition of their foolishness sends a powerful message that you are neither intimidated nor affected by their disrespect. Epictetus famously taught that it is not external events that disturb us, but our judgments about them. By labeling the disrespectful person's behavior as foolish rather than personalizing or internalizing it, you distance yourself from their negativity and protect your peace of mind. This strategy also aligns with the Stoic practice of viewing obstacles as opportunities. Here, the obstacle is the rude person's attempt to provoke you. The opportunity is to demonstrate your own wisdom and self-command by responding with calm clarity. In the modern world where social interactions can quickly escalate online or offline, this kind of response is especially valuable. It can diffuse tension without aggression, maintain your reputation for composure, and subtly discourage further disrespect. It sets a boundary that rude behavior is neither effective nor tolerated, but it does so without creating more conflict or drama. Ultimately saying, "You seem really dedicated to making a fool of yourself," is a way to reclaim your power and protect your dignity. It shifts the focus away from your reaction and onto the rude person's own behavior, revealing it for what it truly is, a losing strategy that only diminishes their credibility. This comeback exemplifies Stoic virtues: wisdom in recognizing the true nature of insults, courage in confronting disrespect without fear, and temperance in maintaining calm and dignity. It's a reminder that true strength lies not in fighting fire with fire, but in using reason and calm to rise above. By adopting this response in your daily life, you show that you are not a passive victim of disrespect, but an active guardian of your inner peace. You communicate that you see through the insults, that you will not be dragged into petty conflicts, and that your calm and reason are your greatest defenses. This approach not only protects your mental and emotional well-being, but also commands respect in any interaction. Now you know 7 powerful, calm, and assertive comebacks to use whenever a rude person disrespects you. Remember, the real strength lies not in raising your voice or losing your temper, but in maintaining your inner peace and dignity. Disrespect only works when you let it get under your skin. By staying calm and responding thoughtfully, you take away their power and show true mastery over yourself. This is the essence of Stoic philosophy. Control what you can, accept what you cannot, and never let someone else's negativity dictate your emotions. If you found these strategies helpful, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more insights on Stoicism, self-improvement, and living a life of strength and wisdom. Also, check out the free newsletter linked below for weekly tips and deeper lessons on mastering your mind and emotions. Thanks for watching, and remember, your calm is your greatest weapon.